And now our host, Stephen Lee Morris.
Morgan Smalley is one of 5 recipients of the Play LA theatre development program that's administered by the Humanitas Prize. Morgan is 25 years old and speaks with us about how she imagines a future in the theatre. Morgan Smalley, welcome to Animal Farm.
Hello.
You are a playwright and you've been writing feverishly through COVID.
Yeah.
You're comparatively speaking to me, you're a young person.
Yeah.
And yet you write for the theater. I mean,
yeah.
What is wrong with you? What do you imagine?
Oh, the alternatives are just not as appealing to me. So like, what are the alternatives? Writing novels? That sounds like a long process.
Yeah.
Or screenwriting. I do screenwriting, but it's just in theater, the playwright is honored, and like culturally in theater, people really respect playwrights. Whereas in screenwriting, it seems like once you get to a certain level, maybe people start to revere you, but it seems like you're kind of cast aside in the world of screenwriting.
Maybe if the screenwriter is the producer as well, then that's a different.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Yeah, the screenwriter, the work is for sale.
Yeah.
As is the screenwriter, whereas the playwright, that's not the case. It's the work is for lease.
And I love theater and plays, and it's like I've been doing. Let's see, I wrote my first like one act when I was like senior year of high school, and then just kind of kept going from there. And I just really enjoy playwriting the most as a medium for writing.
Can you expand on that? I mean, what?
I think I really like kind of touched on this before, but like the culture of theater is really, it's so communal, like being in the same space as everyone performing. And then just there's something really beautiful about everybody coming together and working really hard on something for however it may be, like 6 to 8 weeks, and then it's over, and then you move on to the next thing, and it's just like you form these really tight bonds with people, and it's amazing. And then those friendships last you know, for a super long time. But I don't know, I just really like theater.
And you're a good playwright. You are in the Play LA program. You're what's the word? Honorary recipient of that. Of that grant. And for that program, you wrote an absolutely fascinating play called Red Tar. And perhaps you could describe it and jump in if need be, because it really is extraordinary.
Yes, so Red Tar this is the best way I can surmise it. A suicidal woman named Eustace travels to the Appalachian, West Virginia, to be killed and brought back to life by a magical hillbilly. And then in the second act, I don't know how much I want to spoil, I don't know, but in the second act, the magic doesn't go wrong for her, but another guest who was killed with plans to be brought back to life, the magic fails, she's still dead. He has to talk to God, who is an incarnate in the form of George Washington, the first American president.
Which sounds pretty goofy, but
yeah,
when it plays out, it's not. The world is actually remarkably, although it's funny, it's coherent, mainly because this, as you call magical hillbilly, is running a kind of scheme.
Yeah.
And he's running an enterprise in which it's almost like an amusement park ride where people come close to death that's what you pay money for, and then come out of it alive. And he's really working on that same premise that there's an adrenaline rush in getting that close to death, and he actually gives people a death experience, not a near-death experience, a death experience. They're shut down, and then he brings them back. And he's been doing this for some time. And it's an enterprise he's running. It's obviously kind of I call it a dark, the equivalent of a dark web enterprise. It's a dark industry.
Yeah, the equivalent I would, like what I had in mind when writing it was people travel to go on these like ayahuasca trips, and they like, I don't know if they pay money, but they like go somewhere and they like have this really transformative like experience on ayahuasca. So that's kind of what I was thinking about when I wrote that.
Yeah, yeah. And then of course, the idea of George Washington being God, and he emerges.
Yeah.
And he's pretty sadistic, actually.
Yeah, he's a huge psychopath. I couldn't get out of my head the idea of, well, I was like, I don't know like who God should be. And at first that maybe it should be like a sadistic child. But then I thought that was kind of like, I feel like that's been done before. So I couldn't get out of my head the idea of George Washington being this like mythical man, because he intentionally inspired so many legends about himself. There's like this newspaper article, it's totally fake, from back then, talking, it's like this weird biblical scene almost, where they're like, angels spoke to George Washington, and they published it as nonfiction in a newspaper article, and I just couldn't get that out of my head.
Yeah, yeah. How do you envisage yourself continuing in a career in the theater, in a playwright, and what does career mean to you in 2022?
That would be like the dream, would be if I could somehow, if not write plays for a living, but just be at all involved in theater as a living. What making a living means to me in 2022. Right now it's extremely transitional, so I'm like kind of figuring out my life. But yeah, theater at all, like I know it's kind of slowly being revived, and if I can at all insert myself into that culture and like be a part of it as a job, that would be amazing.
What do you mean in your view it's being revived?
I wish I was more part of theater, so I knew the answer to that question better, but it seems like my friends who are more involved in theater as like actors and like production staff, they seem to be starting to get back into things.
Oh, you're talking about post-COVID.
Yes, post-COVID is what I meant.
Okay, so we're seeing the return of the art form.
Yeah.
In a living space. That's true. The number of openings in the city is spiking up now as infections rates plummet. I don't know what any of that means, but other than just more activity. What about the relationship of being a playwright to making a living? That's a crude question, but do you even
No.
give a crap about that? Or
I'm like, it's like that's like the ideal like dream fantasy, that would be awesome. But at the moment, I'm just kind of like, I just want people to read my stuff. Like anytime anybody reads anything I've written, I just get so stoked that I like don't even care too much about money. Like, yeah, it's like a fantasy to live in, the idea of being like commissioned. That would be fantastic. Or just like winning competitions and stuff like that. Like the Play LA, that would be fantastic. Just doing things like that.
So you see it as a vocation and avocation?
What does avocation mean?
Well, one is essentially a labor of love, and the other is
Okay. I think labor of love is probably a very good phrase for it.
Yeah. And then you're going to support that any way you can. And that is
Yeah.
the life of not only playwrights, but actually most people doing
Most artists.
theater with the exception of a very constricted circle. And even their work comes in surges and it's sporadic. So.
Yeah, the 9 to 5 remote job has been really wonderful in terms of productivity with playwriting. And now I'm like I said, it's kind of up in the air for me right now. And ideally I can find another job like that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And how do you get by? What else do you do?
Well, I was a loan processor until December 30th, and then my contract ended. So I'm looking at Starbucks, I'm looking at various assistant jobs. So kind of figuring it out at the moment.
And in terms of your background in the theater, did you go to college, or where did you said in high school you started to write plays, you had mentioned.
Yeah, I started writing plays in high school, and then I think like what started is I won this contest in high school, and I got to go stay at VCU for 2 weeks for free. And it was like a totally life-changing experience for me. And it just made me fall in love.
VCU?
Oh, Virginia Commonwealth University.
Thank you.
And then in college, I didn't major in theater or anything. I majored in communication, but I actually think that was really helpful with writing. I think majoring in communication was really helpful. But I did minor in theater, and all my friends were doing theater, and I wrote a lot of scripts for them to perform. And I mostly did improv in college. I did a ton I would drive like an hour from Fairfax, Virginia to Washington, DC, like 3 times a week to do improv in DC.
So you're a performer. You're a performer.
Yeah, performing writing, yeah.
So that informs, that's probably why your characters are so rich.
Yeah, maybe.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Maybe we can imagine.
I would love to be performing again in some capacity. I haven't been doing improv because it's all online right now, and it's kind of, I don't love it online. But yeah, I probably see myself it's hard to imagine myself just not having a 9-to-5 job and just like submitting my plays anywhere I can. But like dream would be like staffed somewhere, like on some sort of writing staff. So fingers crossed. 5 years seems like so far away. In 5 years, I'll be 30. So I'll still be pretty young. I've got time.
It'll happen in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I bet.
Morgan Smalley, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. This was really fun.
Next week, we're joined by David Melville and Melissa Chalsma, who together run Independent Shakespeare Company, which is responsible for producing Shakespeare in the Park, that would be Griffith Park, during the summers, as well as programming various Shakespeare and classic theatre related performances in their Atwater Village space.
If you enjoy Animal Farm, please support us on Patreon.